Hello comic fans, or Love and Rockets fans, which in my mind is pretty much the same. Here's Earl Grey with a new video about my Love and Rockets issues. We are now in the year 1985 with these three issues. Issue 13, 14 and 15. All three issues are first printings, if this is of some interest for you. And after that I will give you some kind of overview about other opportunities to get the stories within these three issues. Starting with issue 13, we have a nice composite cover done by Jaime with his most important characters from the Hopper's world, at least the female ones. Maggie, Hopey, Terry, Izzy, Penny and Duffy. No Gilbert Beck cover, but some advertisement for Fantagraphics books. And again, a bit cast of character page here, but the actual story starts here with Maggie tearing her jeans. And this is the start for a nice hangout in the city to shop for some new clothes. A very casual story, but about them doing what they do best. Hopey throwing a bottle at a policeman and then getting a new haircut. No earth-shattering events in any case, but if you expect some heroes clobbering the shit out of each other, then you're certainly not in the right comic here. Everyone can, I guess, write a gripping story about bank robberies or big earth-shattering events, but write a nice comic about two girls going shopping and do it in this gripping and funny and entertaining way, then you're really a master of the medium like Jaime is. Was, is and will be. And Gilbert's first contribution to issue 13 is very much in the same vein, but here we have the men hanging out together, even though they talk about the women in Palomar, checking out them to find out a new girlfriend for this city boy here who visits the village. So that's it, basically. And one of these opportunities for Gilbert to do a little summary without calling it summary and giving us a little story instead. But afterwards we are reacquainted with the most important females in the story, which is pretty neat. And it wouldn't be Love and Rocket story if not the female's head would have the last word here. Why is it men always make their decisions with their thingies? And Luba says, actually I prefer it this way. If they ever used their brains, we might have to start taking them seriously. In the middle of the issue we have an 8-page preview of Lloyd Llewellyn, a detective parody of the new upstart Daniel Clowes. Fantagraphics started publishing the story here, the stories around this detective guy in single issues. And sort of it fits the feel of Love and Rockets, and if they would have teamed up together to produce some Love and Rockets issues, it would have been great as well, I think. Then a little one-pager, which is in a way a bit a preview of things to come in the next issue. Here we have Young Locas, a story about Maggie at the age of 13. This is her friend Letty. She dies pretty soon after this scene here, which is told to us off-panel, which is a very interesting way of informing the reader and Maggie, so to speak, about the death of the character, while she is in the repair garage and, yeah, overthinking her decision not to staying a mechanic, because this ship is just too cool to not to be repaired by her. Afterwards, we are back in Gilbert's Palomar and in a two-part story called An American in Palomar. And here we have the American from the title, with the very American name Howard Miller. He is a self-acclaimed photo genius who does photo reportages and documentaries for shiny magazines that inform the people back home about the miserable lives of the poorer half of the world. So he doesn't really look at the people in Palomar, but just looks for pictures to illustrate his preformed notion of the world there. It's needless to say that in part 2 he will get what he deserves, a nice clobbering by some youngsters from Palomar. But he feeds some of the Palomar ladies here, especially Tonantzin and Diane, with wrong ideas about becoming a star in Hollywood or being the fastest runner of the world and stuff like that. Issue 13 ends with a panel sequence that you can, if you will, call a fantastic realism, where our photographer loses somehow his grasp on reality amidst of ancient ruins here. So, and here we have a letter, 2 pages of letters, and an ad for the next issue. And here it is, issue 14 with An American in Palomar, cover from Gilbert, and an ad on the back for that aforementioned Daniel Klaus book, Leute Llewellyn. And if there ever was a formula for good comics, this has to be one of them. Aliens, murderers, beatniks, robots, senseless violence, and girls, girls, girls. But back to Love and Rockets proper. We have the second part of An American in Palomar. I guess I've already told you the gist of it, so we can skip these pages here, even though this is a great story. And it shows in a way how far Gilbert already has developed his Palomar world, because now he can install an observer who watches literally from outside the strange world of Palomar, and in a totally wrong way, of course. But so it's in a way fooling around with his world, or putting this world into some kind of test if it holds up. Our photojournalists don't hold up to the anger of these youth here, the young ones here. So, what happens next? This is what happens next. Hopey at her coolest with the bass guitar. It took me a while to understand all the wrestling stuff, but I liked all the punk rock things, the characters preparing for the next concert and doing their concerts and all that stuff. I loved that from the beginning, and this here really leads up to some of my favorite storylines in Love and Rockets ever. Even though this is in a way mere preparation for these stories, it's fantastic to look at again and again, and all the characters. It's nothing more than going for a concert and being late, actually. But like in the shopping story from the issue before, it's just fantastic. Here we have an ad for the first trade, you would say today, book 1 of Love and Rockets, which collects issue 1 and the issues 1 and 2. I've shown you my copy of that before, or my 2 copies of that before. So, and an ad for a book with art from Drew Friedman. Then we have a pretty touching story of Rena Titanian remembering her wrestling colleague of late, called Little Monster. She actually hated her moniker and got really angry on the stage when people shouted Little Monster at her. So the story here is more about the dark side of the wrestling business in a way. And here we have Rena Titanian in her younger days in a very bold and pop artsy fashion done by Jaime. And an ad for Neat Stuff by Peter Berg on the back. The letters page points out that by now we have even translated versions of Love and Rockets in Scandinavia. Here's a panel in Swedish as proof for that. Jaime starts the issue here, and I really have to read the sequence here for you. Maggie, when I get married, we are going to own a yacht and sail to the islands every weekend. Well, are you going to marry that rich, Daffy? Oh, I don't know. Maybe someone like Grand Race who has an exciting job and lots of money. Oh, good luck. Yo, check out the beach bunnies, Izzy. Right out of a soft drink commercial, Hopey. You guys must be ill. The sun doesn't go down for another few hours or so. What were you guys talking about before we politely interrupted? Marriage. Oh shit, now you did it, Daffy. Marriage, huh? Well, I don't think I'd be too helpful in this conversation, but is he here? When I was a little girl, my cousin Perverto was an expert at torturing cats. Here it comes. Once he got 2 cats and tied their tails together with wire. What this got to do with marriage? Then he hung them over a clothesline so they'd hang upside down alongside each other. Then he'd leave them there. Guy, how mean. They'd fight each other off and on. Then after a few days, one cat would start eating the other. Oh, I can't hear any more of this. I think that's all of it, Meg. But here our Daffy character has already enough. I'd have to go home now. Did you need a ride, Maggie? No, we'll take her home. See you later, Daffy. Why'd you have to do that to the poor kid? You know how much Daffy looks up to us. I didn't do anything. Izzy's the not-so-gay divorcee. As mean as this little story here truly is, it's absolutely in character. All the characters do behave like they behave and create this, totally naturally way of interacting with each other. Maggie repairs a car from these dudes here. And then we have more glimpses into the punk rock world, which I really can enjoy without reading at the text even. These portraits of Terry and Hopey and their singer here, or this portrait of Terry and Hopey, that's just great. It's followed by one of Gilbert's darkest pieces about Jesus on a prison island. He was sent there because he had allegedly beaten his wife Laura, and now he's there, and it's a dark and terrible place where all the prisoners go mad and commit suicide and don't know what to do with each other or have love with each other because they don't have women, so somehow they have to deal with their sexual urge, And Jesus' primarily way is of imagining all the ladies of Palomar to blow off steam, but it's a very sad and sad story. This silent sequence of panels here shines a different light on the previous events. So this here was obviously more an accident than anything else, and him clobbering the policeman was just him defending this guy here from the policeman that hit this victim here. So this has obviously some, unfortunately, some timely aspect right now. Yeah, it's a dark and terrible place, and Gilbert really makes us feel how desperate he has to be right now. The last story in issue 15 is Queen Rena Alive at 34. A story that was chosen, for whatever reason, to be the first one in the Jaime Studio edition. Here we have it. And if you want to look at, and I really can't argue with that, because it's drawn beautifully, like everything Jaime touches. It's pure comic gold. I did a video about this tome here some year before. But if you want to have this with all the minor corrections that you can see shining through here, you have to get this tome here, which is pretty special opportunity and luxurious opportunity to get your fingers on Love and Rocket stories. If you want to have a cheaper collection of Love and Rocket stories that contain the stories from the aforementioned comic magazines, you have to get House of Raging Women. This is the 5th trade of these Fantagraphics books for Love and Rocket stories. And it contains some other stuff as well, but mostly the stories that I've shown you before. As it is with all these trades from Fantagraphics, they have shuffled the sequence around here. So the sequence of the stories in these trades is different from the sequence or in the magazines. Sometimes it's an improvement, sometimes it's a bit just confusing. Who I am to argue with Fantagraphics. I don't want to do that, for sure. And as always, I want to address these big collections of Lucas and Palomar to get the stuff from Jaime and Gilbert in these huge tomes as well. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.